Oh, is she talking about me? I don't know if she is or not. I don't really care.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Board-certified, what does that mean? Board-certified means that you have taken 2 exams, because I'm board-certified by the state and by the National Board of Trial Advocacy, so 2 different bodies. I'm certified as a criminal trial specialist and a criminal law specialist. That means I have done a lot of trials. I've cross-examined a lot of expert witnesses. I've had 4 lawyers, 4 judges, and 4 prosecutors all vouch for my credentials. And they've also reached out to judges that I didn't put down, people that I've tried cases with, to see if I'm qualified. It's a level of distinction above and beyond your peers. So you're an expert in basically that field. And so I'm a specialist in the area of criminal defense. So when I talk to you about X, Y, or Z, I come to you with authority. And hopefully a little humor and a little education. And we kind of, it is what it is. But I come to you also with my pearl handle pistol cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by our former content genius, Michael Rivers, who started the channel. God rest his soul. Okay, so today we're reacting to Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone was sentenced. When was she sentenced? She was sentenced about 3 months ago. This would have been after we took our little break. And I haven't seen her allocution. So here's what happens at sentencing. So you have your trial. So the defense goes last at a trial. The prosecution goes first. They call their witnesses. The defense calls their witnesses. Then you have rebuttal witnesses, possibly. And then you have your closing arguments. Well, after that, if the person's convicted, then you have sentencing. And what person, she's sitting in jail while she's being sentenced. Now, during a trial, you notice that she was in her trial garb. She was in a suit. She looked normal. She didn't look like she has been held in jail. Remember, she made a motion for makeup and that kind of stuff, which I think the judge denied. But it's so that she doesn't look like a prisoner in front of the jury. That's a constitutional right. Okay? But once you've been convicted and now you're sentenced in front of the judge, you no longer have that constitutional right to look like a normal person. So you've been sitting in the jail. Guess what you're wearing? You're wearing prison scrubs or jail scrubs, and which are very similar to medical. But so the state goes first, the government goes first, and they present their argument. And a lot of times there's victim impact, and those are difficult to go through. They bring out pictures and when. Then he'll never have a child. He'll never walk down the aisle. I mean, you just hear these things, and don't give off to me about, as a defense lawyer, it's tough to sit through that stuff, and I understand that person's experienced loss, the family member, and I get it, but we hear it all the time, and maybe I've gotten a little cold over the years, but it is still heart-wrenching. I remember my client shot 9 people accidentally. Well, he actually did shoot 9 people, but he only meant to hit 1. There was everybody behind him. He was being shot at. But he shot at and he killed this kid about a block away who was a college kid. He was just graduating from college. And his mother gets up and it's just fucking heart-wrenching. And, there's no rebuttal to that. There's no, so Sarah Boone will have the opportunity of what they call allocution. That's where you get up and you speak, and generally it's, "I'm sorry, Judge. You should never have done this. I was intoxicated, and now I'm sober, and I've got Jesus in my heart." Blah blah blah. And so you want 2 things. You want remorse and acceptance of responsibility. Those 2 things. That's what you want to show in an allocution. Something tells me the narcissist that she is, Sarah Boone, doesn't have that within her.
For the record, just state your name again.
Sarah Boone.
Now, this is unlike a trial, so you're allowed to speak in a narrative form, as well as I understand you have taken some notes or written a letter that you want to read from, and then you want to speak to the court after that.
Yes.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and get started?
This is actually an edited version of...
Who fucking cares if it's an edited version? Nobody saw the first fucking draft. So, I mean, I really had a lot more to say about what a piece of shit he was, but I'm not going to say it. Nobody cares.
I had a lot to say. I've had a lot of time to think about things, and I didn't really know how to put it on paper, and I didn't know how much I could say or how little I should.
And to be honest with you, less is more in these scenarios, because the more you say, the more you want to say, and the more you want to say, the more you want to be vindicated because you said you weren't guilty, and the more you do that, the less you are accepting responsibility, and the more you're getting the ire of the court.
I should say. So what I have here is, like I said, an edited version.
Nobody cares that you had more to fucking say. Just, one of the things that they teach in law school is to not speak in legalese. The party, the first part, blah, 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 blah. No, just say what you want to fucking say. Just get it out there.
But I would like to read the more important parts that I feel that everyone should know that wasn't said in my actual trial.
Uh-oh, here we go. All the evidence that wasn't brought up. I mean, and there's really no rule about how long these things can be. But if I'm the judge, I'm like, okay, she's going to relitigate this whole case.
And on top of what I have on paper, I have, this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. So I wanted to read this, and then if I may, I would like to address everyone in my apology on top of my statement.
You may proceed, ma'am.
Kentu sukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness. It embraces...
Okay. Is she the piece of art with all the broken cracks?
It embraces flaws, weakness, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is a part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken.
And one of the cracks that I have is my dead boyfriend in the suitcase. That's a beautiful crack, now fused together by gold dust. Give me a fucking break.
This is the wisdom of Kentu sukuroi. In my wisdom and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan.
What did I tell you? She's the piece of art, right? The focus is on me. Look at me. Woe is me. I'm really fucking sorry this happened to me.
All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by George Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation, ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, forced into being pro se.
You had 9 fucking lawyers. Who forced you into being pro se? You're just a pain in the ass. See, when you go like this, judge doesn't have anything in his quiver, other than the biggest arrow possible to shoot at you, because it's everybody else's fault but yours, Sarah. And how in the world could a judge have leniency or mercy or spread any fucking gold dust into your cracks, into your huge crack?
Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable. Forgiveness is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but an act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow. Withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and adds even greater grief and deeper heartache.
I'm so glad you could forgive yourself. Oh my God, that's so wonderful.
Irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths or injustice. It doesn't matter. As the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding and more extraordinary. Above all...
Okay, read the room. Nobody gives a shit about this. Nobody gives a shit that you are more beautiful than broken, blah, 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 blah. And so she starts off with blaming George Torres. That's what you don't blame the fucking victim. What did he do wrong? Other than, you got past domestic shit with him, I get that. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Let's just say for the sake of argument it did. You just got convicted of killing him. I mean, and with no excuse. You don't blame the victim. If you feel wronged and you really have to blame the victim, find something else to say.
Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward. My goal begins with George Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped.
Thing is, she said so many lies during the trial, so many lies in her interrogation. This is not an allocution that is going to garner sympathy.
Tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded, made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions.
Okay. I don't mean to keep interrupting her, but because it's so eloquent. But the thing about it is, there is a way that she could have imparted this message to include the fact that she was a victim of domestic abuse, but it just sounds like a laundry list of grievance.
Traditions and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over, for breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed. For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape their remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me. For threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother. For all of the drunken rage.
Sounds like a revenge killing, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound... do you remember... We'll play a little bit of this. For all the things you've done to me.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
And she's laughing. She's absolutely laughing as he's... I mean, she's in that fucking suitcase and he can't breathe. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah. And she's laughing. She doesn't sound like a victim when that's going on.
Rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped. For drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. for making me experience what it is to be sodomized.
Sarah, you knew about that before you met George, didn't you?
Threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece. For threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job. For holding me hostage on weekends my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave. For stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested. For destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called.
There's a way to impart the message. There is a way. And this is not it. This is a laundry list of grievance that she has against George. And maybe it's all true. Or maybe it's not. This is now the Sarah Boone Show.
For me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison. For beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe. For having me experience what it means to see stars, like in the cartoons, where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times. For dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit next to him. For taking my car driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son to school foremost, me to work, and he to his batterers intervention classes and probation officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him. For causing me so much trauma and pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, I had to be hospitalized more than once. For destroying my reputation and integrity, for my M for murderer scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably. I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times, to end me with his terrifying love.
But you ended him, didn't you, Sarah? You ended him. You could have let him out of that suitcase, but you chose not to.
I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was, capable of, and has done in the past, his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help. All of his siblings, including Pharrell Torres, who is now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of their head.
How does that have anything to do with this? It's just her. It's her floor, so that she can rail on everybody and anybody.
Her head. For everyone who knew what George was doing to me, sometimes how and when, but allowed and enabled. I forgive them for caring too late. I hope they all ask themselves while quiet and comfortable in bed at night the uneasy question, what could I have done to stop this from happening to both of them? And after all the time Sarah tried to, by asking for help from all of us and so many times. Another great contributor of my gold is social media, with its greed, insensitivity, deception, obvious exploitation, and advantageous gain from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate, conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media.
Are you forgiving me, Sarah? Because I'm seeking your forgiveness because we made a bunch of money off of you with some videos that we did commenting on the ridiculousness of your actions. I mean, do you ever once put all this higher power wisdom on yourself? You don't.
Which condemned me in the court of global public opinion since the beginning. My family law case is the new prey waiting to be picked apart and pillaged from me being made infamous by social media and my criminal case.
Well, you don't have a family law case. What are you gonna get visitation while you're in fucking prison? I mean, you fucked up your parenting. I mean, hey Dad, can we go see Mom at the penitentiary? I really like the donuts that you get in the waiting room, in the vending machine.
It simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven and move forward. Social media has made...
You were convicted of murder in the second degree. And you're not even asking for forgiveness. You're not contrite. All you're doing is just Pew, 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 pew. All you're doing is that's a fucking little machine gun of accusations of grievance.
Has made me a pariah. It has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online. In my criminal case, as a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced, successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them. Also, all of the media tycoons for not having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness for prejudgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from my and others' misfortunes, accidents, and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and their keyboards.
Oh, is she talking about me? I don't know if she is or not. I don't really care. What a waste. What a waste of an opportunity for her to, say, look, yeah, I was a victim of domestic abuse. It was rampant. It was ongoing. And it made me do some things that I wouldn't have done otherwise. I'm sorry that he passed away. I am sorry that, that's how you handle this. Not like this.
And even after all that's been said and done, theorized, hypothesized, scrutinized, and blasphemed in my case, still no one knows me.
Oh, no. We know you. We saw who you were, drunk and pointing at him while he's in the fucking suitcase. For everything you done to me. We know who you are. We know who you are through the trial that everybody watched. We know who you are through the 9 lawyers that you ate and spit out. We know you through all the lies that you've told in your interrogation, all the lies that you told on the stand, all the bullshit that you put through. And I don't normally do this with a defendant. I like to kind of be middle ground, there's both sides. There's no both sides here. She's an awful person.
In the end, I forgive myself for not choosing my life sooner, for not being more brave, vigilant, bolder, and outspoken, stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, for being hopeless, desperate, simple-minded, weak, and inexperienced. I forgive myself for not realizing I was enduring a life of domestic violence and that the vicious cycle of never ends. I had nothing to compare.
There is some truth to that because people don't like to leave their abusers. And I don't want to downplay that. When you're suffering from domestic abuse, you don't always feel free to leave. In fact, very rarely do the people feel they get controlled with money, they get controlled with violence, they get controlled with guilt, they get controlled with children, they get controlled with a whole host of things. So domestic violence is it's so ugly and it's not something that people can just readily leave.
Nothing to compare to. I've never been hit by a man ever before in my life. I was raised hitting a woman was wrong and should never happen. No excuse. I forgive myself for not escaping permanently, for not fighting back sooner to save myself, my son, my dogs, home and car.
I'll be honest with you. You got a little boy that's in this fucking house? How in the... If George was exactly like you described him, or even half of that, even one time, why would you be with somebody and put your son in harm's way like that?
Having 20/20 hindsight, thinking of everything I could have done differently or better to avoid the outcome. I think about this every day since. Also, of all the good days we had together, for him at least, while I was constantly in hyperdrive, high alert, and paranoid, making sure I did everything right all the time. If not, the great possibility I would be ended as George threatened me with so many times before. I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, and no matter how grotesque he may become, I still loved him, hoped, and forgave. I tried breaking the spell so he wouldn't be a monster anymore. I saw who he was inside.
But you wouldn't open a suitcase. That's all you had to do is or call 911. Hey, my abuser's right there. Can you just put him on your truck and haul him away? I mean, you could have done that.
George made me then, now, and always love him for all of his cracks also. We made each other our own brilliant pieces of art from the cracks and repairs. Unfortunately, not all cracks can be. In all of my forgiveness, George is my greatest lesson and will forever be a part of me. I think of him every day and still speak to him when alone in the red yard. I ask his forgiveness and that he looks for me at the gates of heaven so I can tell him how sorry I am, endlessly, and that I never stop loving him. In all of it, and
She should have led with this. She should have led with this. You know, I miss him every day, blah, blah, blah.
still. When I first came to jail, I put my mat under my bed and cried all day and all night for months, only falling asleep from being so exhausted with grief. I wrote him letters. I wrote his family and his daughters, apologizing for asking for their forgiveness. But due to fear that my life or sons would be jeopardized, I did not send. I am sorry. I cannot begin to fathom any of their grief and sadness. Please forgive me. Almost everything reminds me of him, seeing my stab wound especially every day especially.
Every time I see a Samson, I beg. I break down in tears. You fucking break. She notice how she's such a fucking narcissist. She starts a sentence that might sound okay, but it just goes right back to her.
It truly reminds me that all I really did live through. George haunts me. He is everywhere. I believe because I do still love him, think of him, and miss his laugh the most. In my heart, I know he is with me and understands that this tragedy was not intentional. I hope everyone can, his family foremost. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please wholeheartedly know that, and always, I would never. Forgive me, George. Forgive me, Torres family. Forgive me, Judge Cranick. To the entire planet, please forgive me. I graciously...
You know, also the delivery, she almost has a smirk on her face. I mean, she doesn't look like she's really asking for forgiveness.
Humbly ask for consideration, for forgiveness to be extended instead of judgment, for reconciliation and restoration for all of us to move forward. My apology is profuse and ceaseless.
See, this is where they should start playing music to get her off the stage.
Allow me please to brush off the muck, wipe the blood off of my face, and fix the cuts in my skin. I ask for understanding in what really happened and for how long. For second chances, repentance, and redemption, to advocate for all domestic violence survivors, to help them overcome, heal, and still hope, always, to make their voices heard, to confidently walk with all of their scars on the outside and the inside, to help them not ever become a casualty of domestic violence as so many others, to stop the abuse and maltreatment before it's too late. There is always hope, and you can survive. In my soft-spoken conclusion, I ask this. Would I be the darling mother, celebrated woman of the year, if it were I who died?
Again, focus on her, not on the person that passed away.
How many daughters, mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers, nieces, and friends have been because they did? I am a survivor. Learn to do good.
George wasn't a survivor. He couldn't handle the suitcase that you stuffed him in.
Seek justice, rebuke oppressors, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Isaiah 1:17. All-encompassing, protect the abused. My verbal statement is primarily to the Torres family, to the judge, to his daughters. I know you all know who I really am and that I did care for George and that I do still love George. I know you know that we had very many good days. And I take offense to the statement of...
She takes offense to the statement of, I don't care what the fuck she's going to say next. It definitely will fall on deaf ears.
Being said that this is just for a moment. Right now with me here in the courtroom in front of you all, this is just for a moment. But the moments before that, in order for me to be here, is endless. It's everlasting. The scars that I have on the inside, my outside scars have healed except for my stab wound. But this has changed me as a person to see things differently and to understand things differently and to not be weak and just try to protect yourself and forever, regardless of the time that I may receive from today, I forever will have this experience. I forever will have George Torres with me in my heart, in my mind, my body, and my soul. As he and I used to say that we were.
So this is just, I know I'm a broken record here saying this is misplaced, but the way, and this is partially because she's not counseled by a lawyer, because she doesn't know what to say here. There's nobody advising her, at least I don't think there is. You don't blame the victim here. And, and she could have blamed alcohol and drugs. She could have blamed violence against her, which she kind of is doing, but in a different tone. And she could have said, I still love him to this day, which she is kind of, but she's saying it in such a backhanded fashion.
One soul split into two bodies. This is not just for a moment. It may be for everyone in this courtroom, but when I leave, this is forever. When you all leave, that this is forever. This is forever for everyone here and those who it matters to most. I am one of those who will experience this forever.
I will experience this forever. Forever. Look at me. Feel sorry for me. Forever. Forever. Just, I have to do this forever.
I'm sorry. Words do not define my shame, and I don't know what else it is that I can say and convey to the Torres family how this happened. The ifs and whys and how really don't matter. It happened, and I'm sorry. Finally, after 25 minutes, finally we hear something that's kind of somewhat okay. Words cannot describe. And I hope that everyone can forgive me, the Torres family most of all, and his daughters, because I know what he meant to them. And I don't think that anybody ever understood what he meant to me and I to him. And I ask for forgiveness.
Ms. Boone, I have just one or two questions, if you don't mind. And you can speak on it if you want or not. But this is a unique case, and one of the reasons it's so unique is that you were in jail for 4.5 years prior to your trial.
Fucking unbelievable, honestly. There's no reason she should. I mean, I know those delays were caused by her, by firing lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. But I think after the third lawyer, I'd say you're either going to be pro se or, whatever. Oh, that's right. She did have a lawyer, some guy that came out of the fucking woods after she put some stupid ad together. You remember the ad? We'll show you a picture of her ad. So she did have some guy. I think it's the guy that's speaking right now. But, I mean, any guy that would respond and be somebody's lawyer like that, honestly, it's just for the fucking publication of their name in the paper. That's all they want.
And I understand that when you were brought up as a child that you did have some spirituality in your family, some church, some religion.
Always.
But I understand that you got away from that. Did you have a chance during the 4.5 years to look back at your spirituality?
Absolutely.
Everybody finds religion when they go to jail. That should be on like a bumper sticker.
Everyone supposes that this is one of the worst experiences of my life, and it's actually been one of my greatest.
Really? Do you really believe that?
If I were not beaten to death, I was going to work myself to death on the outside, and I never had time to get back into my Bible and to pray and to be with the Lord.
Now I've got all kinds of time to be with the Lord and eat the government macaroni and cheese and bologna sandwiches for the rest of my natural life.
And I, being here incarcerated, have had time, of course, to get closer to God, to reacquaint myself to Him, and realize what it's all about. It's This is all temporary, and when I say temporary, I don't mean by being set free in jail or from prison or wherever else. It means being set free and temporary, meaning that you work for something higher, you work for God, that you strive for your crown to be placed upon your head by Jesus Christ by being said.
Blah, did you just get some throw up in your mouth? Because I know I just did. Now remember, she told the investigators, it's right here on the screen obviously, but she told the investigators they were drinking and playing hide and seek. And that was totally set aside by her video that was on her phone.
You have done well, my good and faithful servant. I've always tried to be a good and faithful servant.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Doing all that I can when my family were alive and I was going through everything up to this point. I've become so much more closer to the Lord, and it's made me such a better person, and I hope that I'm an example going forward of the Lord's light and can draw many people to me because of it.
Any follow-up, State?
No, I assume that was the final word.
Thank you. She can return back to counsel's table. Anything else from your side of the ledger, Mr. Owens?
So now that comes time for the judge to impose sentence. So the defendant has the last word. That's the right of allocution. So that's the final word. So then the judge will take everything into consideration. Usually a pre-sentence investigation is done. That's done by probation. And they go into your background, your criminal history, the offense, chemical health, mental health, financial, all the different things that make up you as a person that got you into the fucking hot seat that you're now sitting in.
The court has had the opportunity to review the evidence and testimony that was presented at trial, the victim impact statements presented here today, the statements of character witnesses, both orally and in writing, Dr. Harper's report and testimony, the defendant's testimony, pre-sentencing investigation, the arguments of the state and the arguments of the defense. The court pronounces sentence as follows. Ms. Boone, court sentences you to life in the Department of Corrections.
Life without parole. I don't know about life without parole. We're not there yet. But she got life. Remember, she had 15 years on the table that she rejected. And she already did 4.5. So she would have done about 65% of that sentence. She'd be out by now.
With credit time served, that Madam Clerk will provide to you momentarily. There are also court costs and costs of prosecution, which Madam Clerk will give you the totals of momentarily. Due to the court levying a life sentence, the court is inclined to liquidate those to a civil judgment unless I hear opposition from the state.
No opposition, Your Honor.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you could please give us the credit time served and the court costs, please.
4 years, 9 months, and 8 days, and the court costs are $418, a state prosecution fee of $100, a dirt fee of $50, and a fee of, oh, excuse me, you're not supervisor.
I'm fine.
So the total would be, come up to $618.
All right, ma'am, the court costs and costs of prosecution are $618. Those will be liquidated to a civil judgment. You will be given credit time served of 4 years, 9 months, and 8 days. You will have 30 days from today to appeal the judgment and sentence in writing. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you. I'm going to have the courtroom deputy provide you the paperwork. Because you've been incarcerated for the last 58 some odd months, the court is going to declare that you are indigent in this matter. I cannot appoint the public defender to represent you as they are conflicted out. Similarly, I cannot appoint the regional conflict counsel to represent you for the same reasons. The clerk will appoint an attorney from the conflict wheel who specializes in appellate litigation. And again, you'll have 30 days from today to appeal that judgment and sentence in writing. Do you have any questions for me? You will now be remanded into the custody of the Orange County Jail to transfer you to the Department of Corrections, and I wish you the best of luck. State, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, anything further? All right. Thank you all very much.
So there we go. There you have it. So her eloquent words didn't help her at all. Her testimony during trial didn't help her at all. Her lies to the cops, the morning that, she gave her statement to the cops, didn't help her at all. Her evil nature kind of dictated, and cruelty, even though she may have been a victim of domestic abuse. You know, it wasn't so bad that she was able to avail herself of a battered spouse syndrome. So I see this all the time. And, you know, and people that are like this usually wind up firing me because I don't take shit from my clients. I mean, and usually I don't have that issue. Usually you don't have an issue with your clients because you're the doctor. This is where we're going to do surgery. You know, I'm the lawyer. You know, I've tried a lot of these cases. Let me lead the way. She went through like 9 lawyers. And it wasn't until this last guy responded to her fucking ad that, you know, she finally got a lawyer. So life, what does that mean? It means she's going to spend the rest of her natural life in prison, period. See you later. So we'll see you next time here in Criminal Lawyer Reacts. That's our reaction to Sarah Boone and her allocution. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, look for us on Facebook, and go to CLR Bruce Rivers for all your merch, your hats, your hoodies, and all the goodies. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.